Hello, students. This is Dr. Mala Sharma, Assistant Professor of English from MLN College, Rador, District, Yamunanagar. Today, we are going to discuss the topic active and passive voice. Since it is quite a lengthy topic, we will be discussing it in two videos. Moreover, we will be discussing it in quite a number of slides. So let us start with its definition. In grammar, voice usually refers to a form of verb that shows whether the subject of sentence performs the action or is affected by it. If the subject of an action is performing the action, it is called active voice. And if it is affected by it, it is called the passive voice. Let us highlight it with two examples. See the two set of sentences. First is Ravi killed a snake, and its passive is a snake was killed by Ravi. Let us highlight it with the following set of examples. We have divided into two sets. We see that these two sentences are quite structurally different from each other. Let us start with the first example. Ravi killed a snake. Its passive form is a snake was killed by Ravi. Ravi writes a letter. The second example, Ravi writes a letter. A letter is written by Ravi. Now we see the first sentence in each pair says clearly what Ravi did. He killed a snake. He wrote a letter. Ravi is the doer of the action. He is the subject. And the two verbs killed and wrote express the action done by Ravi. These verbs are said to be in the active voice. Now, coming to the second sentence in the next pair, we see what was done to a snake and to a letter. In other words, a snake and letter have become the subjects, but the verbs was killed, is written, do not express any action by the subjects. In the other words, we have made the subjects passive. हमने उसको निष्क्रिय कर दिया, सक्रिय से निष्क्रिय कर दिया. So, on we can say these verbs are said to be in passive voice. We also see that in passive voice, the action becomes more important than a doer. And moreover, the doers are not to be mentioned and they cannot be mentioned or they are not being given importance. So that is why we use passive voice. Before we learn the rules of transformation or from active voice to passive voice, let us discuss the difference between the transitive and intransitive verbs, because normally only those verbs can be passivized which have an object. In order to understand these passivized things, we have to understand the object. And in order to understand the object, we have to understand the transitive and intransitive verbs. Transitive verbs are verbs which necessarily take an object. For example, I speak two sentences. I eat every day. The next, I eat an apple every day. Now, if we go through the first sentence, I eat every day seems to be incomplete until we write, what do we eat? I eat an apple. So, I eat an apple every day forms a complete sentence. So, eat here is a transitive verb because it has an object. Usually, object is formed by linking what and whom to the verb. Do you understand? We link what and whom to the verb. Suppose in this sentence, I eat an apple. What do I eat? An apple. So if the answer comes linking to the verb, we find an object. So intransitive verbs are naturally the verbs which do not require any object. For example, birds fly in the sky. Now here fly is not an object. Similarly, laugh, sleep, weep, etc. verbs are intransitive verbs. Let us move to the next slide, how to passivize an active voice sentence. We need the following steps to undergo to transform it. A typical active voice sentence should have the following parts in order to be passivized, in order to be transformed. We need a subject, we need a verb, and an object. Like in the very first sentence, I told you Ravi killed a snake. Ravi is the subject, the doer, verb is killed, and object is a snake. Now, the first step in this procedure of transformation is follow the step 1. Put the object in the place of subject and the subject in the place of object. See this slide. Ravi killed a snake. Now, if we cross it, a snake will come in at the beginning of the sentence and Ravi will be concluded at the sentence and will become by Ravi. Step 2. According to the tense and subject, we have to use an appropriate form of the verb be. An appropriate form of the verb be. See this following table. We usually bring the object in the beginning at the beginning of the sentence, and then is MR, was verb, has, have been, shall be or will be. These are all the be form of the verb, followed by the verb in the past participle or the verb in the third form, and last of all by plus the subject. Next slide is how we can transform active voice to passive voice following the transformation of the verbs. The play or plays usually gets transformed into is, are, am, played. Played is the verb, the third form of the verb. Similarly, do, does, play. Is, are, am, played. Now coming to the past form, the word played gets converted into was, were, played. Did not. If we take the negative sentences, the examples are also given in it. Did not play. Was or were. Since it is a past sentence, it will get transformed into was or were plus third form of the verb played. Then is present and past continuous tenses. Is, are, am playing or not playing gets converted into is, are, am not being played, and was, were playing gets converted into was, were, not being played. Similarly, has, have, played gets transformed into has, have, been played, the form of the be, and played is the third form. Had not played gets converted into had not been played. Now coming to the models, will, shall, would, should, can, must, ought to are always accompanied by the first form of the verb, that is play, and these will get changed into will, shall, would, could, may, might, must, ought to plus be plus third form of the verb, that is played. The last is to play and gets converted into to be played. Play gets converted into be played. Now we follow the step 3. You may have to use an appropriate preposition like by before the passive object whenever it is mentioned. We see the sentence Ravi wrote a letter. A letter was written by Ravi. See, we have brought a letter, the object at the front, the beginning of the sentence, and Ravi has gone at the back of the sentence and has converted into by Ravi. The wrote gets converted into was written as per the rules. See the following table as well. What is subject in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice. And suppose I gets converted into by me. If we take it, we take I at the back of the sentence, it becomes by me. If at the beginning of the sentence is we and it gets transformed in active voice, it becomes by us. You gets converted into by you. He into by him. She into by her. It by it. They by them. Ravi by Ravi. There are certain sentences which cannot be converted, in which of course the object and subject changes its position, but the tense of the verb remains the same. For example, we see in this slide, Sheila sweeps the floor every day. This is in present tense. Every day, routine. This is a routine of hers. And if we convert it into passive, the floor is swept by Sheila every day. Even in the case of universal truth, the tense will not get changed. Now we come to the past sentence or past example. Sheila swept the floor yesterday. This, since it is past, it will be converted into be and verb, the third form of the verb. The floor was swept by Sheila. Let's take the next sentence. Sheila swept the floor yesterday. Now, this sentence is in past tense and its passive form will be the floor was swept by Sheila yesterday. We have used the form of be as well as the third form of the verb in this past tense. One more rule is there that the verb has to agree with the subject of the sentence. Now, let us take another example. I broke this toy. This toy, since is a singular subject, So there has to be singular verb accompanying it. इसके साथ सिंगुलर वर्ब, सब्जेक्ट के साथ हमें सिंगुलर वर्ब ही लगानी है. इसका पैसिव फॉर्म will be, this toy was broken by me. Another example is, if we take the sentence, I broke these toys. Now, since these toys are a plural subject, therefore, the verb has to be plural one. Its passive form will be, these toys were broken by me. Dear students, the most important thing we have to take care while going from active to passive form is that we have to take care of two verbs at the same time. The first is the be form of the verb, that is the helping verbs, plus the third form of the main verb. मेन वर्ब की हमें थर्ड फॉर्म पर जाना है, इसलिए बी और वर्ब की थर्ड फॉर्म का रूल हमने हर टेंस में अप्लाई करना है. एंड द नेक्स्ट थिंग इज, द फॉर्म ऑफ द वर्ब बी विल चेंज अकॉर्डिंग टू द डिफरेंट टेंसेस. हम सब ने टेंसेस किए हैं and we will be going through it so that we can understand the active as well as the passive form of the verb according to the different tenses. So, here is the table of different tenses. We will be going it through one by one. First, we will be taking the present tense and the types of present tense. Let us take present indefinite tense first. We usually go through the formula while taking care of the present indefinite tense, that is subject plus the first form of the verb s or es plus object. While going to the passive form, we will follow subject is or am or are plus the third form of the verb plus preposition, that is by, plus object. Let us take the example, I respect all elders. All elders are respected by me. Go through this second example as well. My uncle looks after me. I am looked after by my uncle. Move on to the next tense, present continuous tense. The active form of present continuous tense is subject is plus is or am or are plus verb plus ing and plus object. And while going it to the passive form, we will follow the formula subject plus is or am or are plus being plus third form of the verb plus preposition, that is by, plus object. For example, he is writing a letter. A letter is being written by him. Now, the second example is, the boys are running a race. A race is being run by the boys, is being run. Remember, is the form of be, being, which is denoting the continuous tense, and run makes the third form of the verb. Now we go to the present perfect tense. Present perfect tense uses the formula subject plus has or have plus the third form of the verb plus object. Now, moving to the passive form, subject plus has or have plus been plus third form of the verb plus preposition, that is by, plus object. Now, the example is, She has invited all friends. This active form will be changed into all her friends because the subject is all her friends. All her friends have been invited by her. Another examples, floods have destroyed crops. Crops have been destroyed by floods. Similarly, we will be discussing the negative forms as well as the interrogative forms. The negative forms of the present indefinite tense is so, subject plus do or does, not plus first form of the verb plus object. Usually we quote not or negatives just after the helping verbs, which is the be form of the verb. Remember this. She does not love you. This will get converted into you are not loved by her. They do not speak English. We take another example. They do not speak English. English is not spoken by them. Now we move on to the present continuous negative sentences, which is subject plus is or am or are, not plus first verb plus ing form plus object. For example, mother is not making tea at present. Now the mother is subject here and the tea is object. Now the passive form will be tea is not being made at present by mother. Another example is Ravi is not painting a picture. A picture is not being painted by Ravi. Now we moving on to the present perfect negative sentence. Has or have, has plus has or have not plus third form of the verb plus object. This will get converted into subject plus has or have plus not plus been plus third form of the verb plus preposition that is by plus object. For example, he has not stolen my pen. He has not stolen my pen. Moving, crisscrossing the subject and object, the passive form will be my pen has not been stolen by him. Now we see another example. I have never cheated you. You have never been cheated by me. Now coming to the interrogative form, that is do or does plus subject plus first form of the verb plus object. Since do or does are the form of be or the helping verbs, while changing into passive form, we will be following the formula is or am or are plus subject plus third form of the verb plus preposition that is by plus object. For example, do you like her will get changed into is she liked by you. Do will be deleted automatically. Do you like her? Because we have been taking help of the helping verb. Do you like her will get converted into is she liked by you. Now moving to the present continuous tense. Interrogative form is or am or are plus subject plus verb plus ing form plus object. are they flying kites? For example, are they flying kites? Now, it will get converted into are kites being flown? For if it is in continuous form, we will not forget the word being. Are kites being flown by them? Now, moving to the present perfect form, have you won the first prize? Will get converted into has the prize been won by you? Last but not least, the present perfect continuous tense. But this tense has no passive form because we do not usually follow the object in these type of sentences. So this was all for today. We discussed active and passive voice in present tense. For revision purpose, I am giving you some exercise to do. Here it is. The first statement is he is charged with theft. Next one, the baby has bought a doll. Third, the publisher is printing the book. Fourth, everyone knows this fact very well. Fifth, we have already filled the vacancy. Sixth, do they say anything interesting? Last, she does not clean all the rooms regularly. So go through the rules carefully and try to change these sentences into the passive form. In the next video, we will be discussing the active and passive voice in respect to the past tense and the verbs with the modals as well as the imperative sentences. God bless you all.